All right, Uncle Dave, take us over to your pick for this week. Who do you like?
Yeah, and I hate to do this, but I'm going to take the Chargers over Jacksonville. I mean, I live in the Jacksonville area, and just when I mean, whether I do or don't to follow them, but just when you think Jacksonville won't or can't, they do. There's a little bit of a caveat there, but they're off a hideous loss, and the Chargers fly east off a great win. I kind of hate to simply do the obvious, but I think here I just have to. I mean, although Cohen kind of publicly shakes it off, these losses and miscues and beating themselves, they're just not a good football team. I mean, Hunter hasn't lived up with the hype. He's hurt now anyway. And, I think the feeling is Lawrence just isn't going to be the franchise quarterback they drafted. I mean, we know he lost a couple of years and a lot of confidence with Urban Meyer, and then they bring in the quarterback guru, Doug Peterson, to kind of fix the problem. And I actually thought that might be good, and it was for, half a year. That doesn't work. And Lawrence has kind of had more than ample time to take his game to the next level, and he just hasn't. I'm not sure they have the team players have faith in him, and he's had the better part of 5 years. And his completion percentage this year is at a career low. He just makes bad decisions. So for all his physical skills, I think he lacks an internal processor up there. And the Chargers defense is not going to let the Jags get a running game going. Uh, and while I do have some respect for the Jacksonville defense, to give up 26 points in the fourth quarter to a Davis Mills offense is just bone crushing when it comes to confidence. And based on their schedule going forward, I think the Jags will still make the playoffs, but it won't start this week. And I think again, just when I think they won't, they do. So there's a caveat there, but they've had enough time and enough talent to turn a corner, and they're still driving straight into the abyss. So I actually am a big Chargers fan this week.
Yeah, I know the Chargers also or sorry, the Jaguars are dealing with a lot of injuries this week, or have been, I should say, as well. Right? I know they picked up Jakobi Meyers from the Raiders to kind of give them some depth at that wide receiver position. I think it was announced just today that Travis Hunter is going to be missing the remaining of the season for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. And I think the one consistent guy for this team has been Parker Washington. And a lot of inconsistencies in the running game. And, it's what Uncle Dave mentions that is Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback of the future for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. And I think that, a lot of that is going to be determined for the remaining of this season. I know they just recently paid him, and it is going to be hard to possibly unload the contract there that they do have for him. But, Brian Thomas Jr. is still a little bit banged up, and you're really relying on second, third, fourth guys on the offensive side for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. And also, what's the mentality for this Jacksonville Jaguars team after the debacle that happened in week 10 in a division game against the Houston Texans, where they were in control of that game starting early. I think they were up I want to say 16, 17, nothing. And here comes the Texans in the fourth quarter. They were able to outscore them. I believe it was 26 to nothing, if I'm not mistaken there. And after you give up that type of loss, especially in division where now the Texans are knocking on the door, at least for a playoff spot. I mean, that's just where's the mentality of that? I feel like I talked about this last week as well, or a couple of weeks ago, about another team that was in a similar situation. I think it was the Giants. So yeah, I'd be with you on the Chargers here, laying the points against the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road here. Mac, any thoughts on the Chargers against the Jags this week?
Two frauds. I want to bet against whoever wins this game. I think the Chargers are vulnerable up the middle. We saw that with the Steelers getting 5 sacks last week, and I think the Jaguars are just bad at football. Trevor Lawrence, 25th on our PFF QBR composite, tied with Michael Penix. Not a playoff quarterback duo, neither of those.
Yeah. So right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have now lost three out of their last four games. They lost against the Seahawks, the Rams, um, barely beat the Raiders after a failed 2-point conversion attempt in overtime by the Raiders. And then they lost to the Texans, where the Texans outscored them 26 to nothing in that fourth quarter. So we could easily be talking about this team could have lost four games in a row. So